Welcome back to Power CEOs. We are going to dive right back in. This has been a phenomenal conversation with Christopher Turner of EMERGICON. We were just talking about work-life balance. We were talking about crucial conversations. We've talked about coaching. We've talked about so much. So I want to go and shift focuses because, Chris, in the break, you were telling me that you really enjoy traveling and immersing yourself in other cultures.
Yes.
What impact does that have on you personally and in your business?
I think it's just different perspective. You know, you get out of your comfort zone, you get out of your day-to-day, you get out of what you really know, and you see how other people live. Sometimes it's amazing, you think, oh, you know, I want to live here too. Sometimes you're like, wow, we have an amazing life in the United States, and not every place in the world is like that. So it's access to history. As everybody knows, the United States is not the oldest country in the world.
Really?
So you go to a place and you realize, wow, I'm staying in a hotel that is older than the entire United States. I mean, that's fascinating that things happened there before there was an American citizen. I just think it gives great perspective, and if you can get over the discomfort of being in a totally different environment, it's just, I think it's amazing.
Well, and I want to actually speak to that because one of the things that we see a lot of value to, we host masterminds in destination places, because what I have found is it's actually easier to be strategic when you're outside of your normal environment.
Very much so. So one of the concepts they teach in Strategic Coach is taking free days, which is no work, no checking with the office. And I had never done that in years and years until I took my first one. And I learned some mistakes, which was being overseas and then trying to check in on work when I wasn't supposed to. And then it all comes back to you. And then you suddenly realize you've paid to be in some exotic location, and now you're worrying about things you can't control, really. I mean, you just really can't control them. So I 100% agree with that. Go someplace, allow your brain to just kind of be free, and you'll be surprised what comes to you. You'll be surprised how many things you can say, that's maybe a neat solution. I'll make a note and then I'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think the other real benefit to taking those free days is you can see where the problems are in your business.
It's true.
I don't like focusing on the negative, but like if you leave and things go great, you know that you've got great processes and systems if everything goes. But if something is not great, it's going to expose itself when they don't have access to you, especially for those of you entrepreneurs who have to be involved in all the things. I'm definitely talking to a lot of our listeners.
That's a huge pitfall I see, and I've got a good friend that we travel and our families travel, whatever, and his office will call him, and I think, what do they think you're going to do? What are you going to do from where you are? I mean, they either want a blessing or a decision. They should be able to make the decision.
Absolutely. Empower your people to make the decisions. Yeah. I absolutely love that. And so I'm going to ask you, because this show is about taking action. It's about, we've been talking about a lot of things. You've imparted so much knowledge, but knowledge is only a small part of the equation. Right. This magic happens when we implement something that we've heard, conceptual implementation.
Yes.
So if you were to talk to, we have different people in our audience, someone who's been wanting to jump off the cliff and start a business, and they've been talking about it and thinking about it, and they just haven't done it, what would your advice be to them?
I think if you're in North America, you can start a business. You can, and we always hear about so many businesses fail, this and that. That's okay. We all learn from failure. It's okay. I think the key differentiator in any business, it doesn't matter what it is, you're probably not going to create something so brand new, nobody's ever done it. But if you can apply a high level of customer service to it, that's huge, because it doesn't matter if you're doing residential plumbing. If you generate a business where you have somebody calls afterwards, says, hey, is everything still okay? Is it great? Do we need to come back out? Any of those things, that's a big difference for people. People aren't used to high-level customer service. So if you're going to go out there and feel like you're capable, go for it. You ought to. Go for it. Go ahead and plan to spend more money than you expect you would at the beginning.
A lot more money than you think.
Yeah, and if you're kind of risk adverse, so you need to do some planning and you need to get ready for it. But you know, the worst you can do is feel like it wasn't for you, and that's okay. But if it is for you, there's tremendous resources out there. You know, Jen, you're a resource for me to be able to tap into other people who can give you advice.
Absolutely. And so for those who are entrepreneurs, and maybe they're in the small business space, they've had a measure of success, and they've reached that kind of like, I can't get past this tipping point.
Yep.
But what would you say to them?
So I was clearly at that point, about, I think 8 years ago, I'll say. I was clearly at that point. I had a very clear conversation with myself where I realized, I've got to figure out how to be a CEO. And I realized going to kind of the regular professional associations you're part of wasn't the really answer. Those are just kind of your peers. So I looked out on the landscape and I joined a peer advisory group originally called Vistage, which led me to implementing the operating system, entrepreneurial operating system, which led me to join Strategic Coach, which is coaching for me as an entrepreneur. And I encourage people to look at the landscape that's out there, that you can get some access to have people coach you and lead you, because somebody's going to look at it and say, have you ever thought about this? You know, what are you doing here? And you may realize, oh my goodness, we were so convinced this is what we should do. And somebody may very clearly pull out of the air, not knowledgeable in your industry, and look and say, that doesn't make any sense. You know, you're spending this to get this, or you've got people focused on something here that just doesn't seem to make any sense or add any value.
Or worse, you're selling more. You think your answer is more lead generation, and you don't have your cost of goods under your way because you haven't looked. That's a common one.
Yeah.
You laugh about it. It's so common.
Yeah.
You don't pay attention to that price creep and that
It's
margin
hard.
creep.
It's very hard when you're small to figure those numbers out, because you're allocating larger costs than you will when you get to scale. You really are. So your cost of goods sold likely are very inflated, and really what it is it's a loss, but the cost of goods sold may be at a profit. So you may still lose money on the bottom line, but you're still maybe profitable here, but you have to really understand those numbers and really look at them.
And get a professional if you don't know your numbers.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. And for those who are actually, they're solid, they're stable, they're in that inflection point where they're scaling, because I know you have been through this.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you wish you would have known when you scaled your company that you didn't?
I think I wish I had started everything sooner. So it almost doesn't matter what it is. I'm not saying I should have started my company sooner. I was, pretty young when I did, but I think there's the sense of the unknown, and what if this doesn't work, and what that doesn't work. And I think it's okay just to push forward on things. So people, things, process, pulling in outside coaching, those things, just go ahead and invest. And so often we think about it's an expense and it's an expense. It is that you're spending money, but it's an investment. So you have to think about making those investments if you really want to move forward. If you think about selling your business or even part of your business, that's what they're doing. They're investing in your growth. So you can choose to do that yourself.
Absolutely. And I love to say, it's an investment. I always look at something if it's going to add value, like how much is this going to make me? Mm-hmm. Because if you're looking at hiring and you're afraid because you don't have the capacity yet, but you're building towards that,
yep.
How much is this employee going to make me? What is the capacity that does free up?
Right.
Or, with coaching, I'm always like, okay, well, when I get out of my own way, because I will tell you for myself, I'm always in my own way.
Yeah.
At each level, it doesn't matter how successful you are, you only know what you've experienced to now. And so there's something like we never know what we don't know. And so that's what I always look at is how much is it going to make me when I can get out of my own way or I learn the things that I didn't know.
The interesting balance, and you've probably seen this as I have, the interesting balance is there's a lot of entrepreneurs now that really want to balance their value in the company and how little time they have to spend to get that value, because it's a very hard metric to get to, but it really demonstrates your value. So if you spend 4 hours at work a week, or I know somebody through Strategic Coach that I think he works 10 days a month. He has a tremendous value, has 15 companies or something like that. So that's a really Michael Jordan level of being able to figure it out. And he's a very nice guy, very down-to-earth nice guy, but he's probably top 1% most successful entrepreneurs.
I love it. Fantastic value. So we have had so much to talk about today, but unfortunately all good things do come to an end, and we are drawing towards the near end of our show. So Christopher, if people are listening and they would like to reach out to you about entrepreneurship,
Yep.
about mentorship, about EMERGICON and what you're doing, if they're in the healthcare space,
Yes.
how can they reach out to you?
EMERGICON is the company name, Christopher Turner, so my email is cturner@emergicon.com. I'm on LinkedIn, probably more than any other social platform. More than happy to talk to people, more than happy to give them free advice, and just share with you whatever it is, my thoughts, where I've gotten to where I am. Anything is pretty much open game. I'm happy to help.
And what is it that you do for your first responders and your EMS and your first responders?
So there's two companies. On the EMERGICON company, we process and help them with their medical reimbursement for patients transported by ambulance. And that's a tricky landscape, and you have to really understand that. And we would like to advise you through that. And then the sister company is EMERGIFIRE, and we work with fire departments and volunteer fire departments, rural fire departments, so that they can seek reimbursement for larger incidents they respond to. So you're generally, it's commercial type incidents that you're looking at property insurance, but they bear a tremendous cost burden in small communities to go to, several large incidents, and they need to understand there is some method to get some reimbursement and to bring some funds back into that volunteer or even paid service.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your insights
Thank you.
today. And you, yes, you, I am talking to you. You have had so much dropped on you today, but now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. We have all the knowledge, and that's small part of the equation, but the magic happens in the action steps. So you are going to take action on one thing you heard from Christopher today. One, I don't care what it is, but you're going to take action today, not tomorrow, not next week, because you'll forget about it. But today, because we are going to start that positive momentum and shift our growth forward, because we're here to maximize our impact in our communities and our world. Unfortunately, all good things do come to an end, including this show. But the good news is we will be same time, same station here next week. Until then, go win today, win this week, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a NowMedia Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.